Well, I would say that I'm very impressed and very inspired by the Fête de la Science. The reason is that there are two sort of areas in which the Fête de la Science has concentrated. The first is with school children and providing access of scientists to school children, which does two very good things. One is it makes the scientists be careful about what they say and how they say it, and improves their ability to communicate. This is very important. And then the second is that it brings into the school examples and ideas which will help the teachers to develop the curriculum for the students. The reason also it's very important is that at the school age we're really receptive to many different ideas. We often are not fixed in some political position. We have the opportunity to experience many different things, and we are in an environment we're not in a class with people that we've chosen to be in the class. We're in an environment with all sorts of different people. So this is a sample of the general public. And so we're in an environment where the ideas must be communicated in a broad way and in a way that is straightforward and can be accepted by children. So this is very important. The second thing that's very important is the ability to make this open to many other people. And so the parts of the program which are both in film and also going to the museums and putting exhibitions in museums is also a way in which we are disseminating or broadening the access of science from just the science community itself. The science community itself is very good at talking to the science community. The science community needs opportunities for being a much broader area. Now, as far as being the ambassador, what is really for me a wonderful opportunity is to actively in the next while find points of contact between people in France who are working on both science communication and in science itself, and in the area that I'm interested in, which is the climate change. As a result of developing the connections, something surprising will happen. I say it's surprising because I don't know what it is, but I know that when you bring people together, if you can establish trust between those people, then things happen which we can't predict, but they will lead to advances in our understanding of the world. So permafrost is ground that remains at or below 0 degrees Celsius for 2 or more years. So permafrost is ground climate. And if the climate changes, then the ground climate will also change. So permafrost responds very quickly to climate change. The problem is that permafrost, we think of it as permanent. We're permanently frozen. And so now we have permanently frozen things that will change. So we are concerned that the stability of the ground and the other chemical elements that make up the ground will be altered when climate change takes a major impact on permafrost. There are two particular areas that are important. One is the stability of the ground, which means how well the ground can support structures. So infrastructure depends upon the ground being frozen. The other side is that we know that the ground will warm up, we know that there will be more thawing, and then some of the carbon which is in the ground, the organic material that is in the ground, will be degraded by the biological processes in the ground and release more methane and more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So permafrost is connected both with more climate change, but also with coping with climate change that we have at the moment. So those are the areas that my work connects very closely with climate change. The climate awakening is really because climate change has first been evident in the Arctic. And this is the place where we see many climate change impacts associated with less ice in the ocean, associated with more insects appearing, associated with the changes in the vegetation, associated with the problems with the infrastructure. And these are things that we now hear about. So the Arctic is where many of the climate stories come from. This is a very important question, because now we are in a world which is very different from the world of 20 years ago. 20 years ago, people did not use the internet very much. We didn't have a large amount of many different ideas and many different voices. 20 years ago, the newspapers were few and people read them. Now, some people read newspapers, but many people read all sorts of other stuff on the internet. What this means is that what is truth becomes a contested place. What is truth is a question that is not easy to answer anymore, because there are many different voices which say that they present the truth. Science, or scientia, which is the word it comes from, means knowledge. So science is not just natural science, but also social science and other inquiry that is associated with understanding how our society works. Science, if it is not in the service of society, is going to be it will not be supported by the public. Science must be seen to be helping society. We know in the pandemic there was a lot of science that was active very, very quickly to find a vaccine or find vaccines that were suitable for us and helpful to us. The scientific method does not lead to a fixed result. It always leads to a result which can be improved in the future. So every piece of science is what we call provisional. That is, it's the very best idea we have right now, but as more information becomes available, the science will improve and our ideas will improve. Just think about things like transportation. The way we move around today is very different from the way we moved around 60 or 70 years ago. But 60 or 70 years ago, we had the best that we had at that time. Now we have better. So one of the things about science is that we need people to understand that science is always changing. And if science changes, then we must not have one fixed idea. We must be ready to absorb new ideas, but we need to know that those ideas have a very good reason for being the idea that we adopt. The way I describe it is that science is the acceptance of well-motivated belief. That is, we believe something is true and we have very, very good reasons for believing that it's true. So science is about creating information, but it's also about creating arguments, creating reasons for us to believe the positions of scientists. In the case of open access science, and in the case of science being something which is made available to many, many people, this is what has happened with the internet, with the ability for many, many people to contribute to discussions, with many people to read discussions. The most important thing in this context that scientists must do is to speak a language that everybody understands. We often tell our students that you do not know something well if you cannot explain it to your grandparents. And this is what a scientist must strive for. And what we strive for in science communication is to speak of our ideas in ways that almost everybody can understand why we're saying things, and will then be in a better position to accept the ideas and the information which science provides to us.